Yo, epic warriors, welcome back to the channel, where myths roar and legends bleed. If you're new, smash that like button. If you crave tales of gods and monsters, hit subscribe to join our hero's quest, and drop a comment. Where are you battling from today? Mycenae, Crete, or a modern-day arena? Your vibes power this saga. Let's hear 'em. Today, we're unleashing a brand new series, Hercules: The Trials of a Demigod, an 11-chapter epic plus a conclusion, diving into the life of Greece's mightiest hero. From Zeus' lightning to the jaws of Cerberus, we'll chase the man who wrestled beasts, defied gods, and carved his name in eternity. Grab your club, and let's charge into the myth. Imagine a world of bronze and thunder, where Mycenaean palaces gleam under a sky ruled by jealous gods. In the heart of this age, around 1300 BCE, strides Hercules, half man, half god, his muscles like forged iron, his club a tree trunk terror, son of Zeus, king of Olympus, and Alcmene, a mortal queen. Hercules wasn't just a warrior, he was a force of nature. His 12 labors a saga of blood, sweat, and divine wrath that still shakes us. This series storms through his life, birth under a vengeful goddess, battles with monsters, and a tragic climb to immortality, told in 11 chapters, plus a conclusion, crafted to grip you like a lion's jaws. Hercules' tale, woven by poets like Hesiod and bards in the 8th century BCE, isn't just myth, it's raw power. The library of Apollodorus lists his labors, slaying the Nemean Lion, battling the Hydra, stealing golden apples from the world's edge. These weren't just chores, they were tests to break a demigod, ordered by Hera, Zeus' wife, who hated Hercules like poison. Born in Thebes, raised in Tyrants, he wrestled fate from childhood, strangling servants in his crib, defying kings by 20. His strength was godlike. He lifted boulders, tamed rivers, faced the underworld's hound. But his flaws, rage, pride, a heart too big, made him human. His tragedies as epic as his triumphs. Was he real? Mycenaean ruins, Lion Gate at Mycenae, Tyrant's cyclopean walls hint at warrior kings who inspired his legend. Vase paintings from 600 BCE show him clubbing beasts. Temples in Argos honored his name. His labors mirror rituals of heroism, maybe tied to ancient kings proving their might. Yet his story transcends clay and stone. Sophocles staged his pain, Romans called him Hercules, their champion. From Renaissance art to Disney's 1997 film, grossing $252 million, his muscles flex across time. Why? He's the hero we want to be, unbreakable, flawed, fighting impossible odds. This series dives into his world, a Thebes of whitewashed palaces, a Greece of monsters and oracles. We'll see him crush lions, wrestle death, and face Hera's curses, each labor a step toward godhood or ruin. From Nemean roars to Hades' gates, Hercules' fire burns bright, a warning, a dream, a mirror. What's your take on him, hero or tragic titan? Drop it in the comments, and let's launch into chapter 1, where Zeus' lightning sparks a legend and Hera's wrath begins. Thunder cracked over Thebes, shaking the cyclopean walls of Cadmus Palace, as if Zeus himself roared approval. It was 1300 BCE, and Alcmene, a queen with eyes like obsidian, lay in labor, her cries drowned by the storm. She wasn't just any mortal, her beauty, fierce and regal, had caught the eye of Zeus, king of the gods, whose lust burned hotter than his lightning. Disguised as Alcmene's husband, Amphitryon, away at war, Zeus slipped into her bed, stretching the night threefold with divine trickery. As Hesiod's Theogony tells, their union sparked Hercules, named Heracles, Hera's glory, an ironic jab at the goddess who'd hate him most. Alcmene, swollen with divine seed, bore twins, Hercules, Zeus' son, and Iphicles, Amphitryon's mortal boy, two babes destined for wildly different fates. Hera, queen of Olympus, seethed from her golden throne. Zeus' affairs were old news, but this child prophesied to rival the gods, stung like a serpent. Apollodorus' library says she swore to crush him, her jealousy a venom that he'd chase Hercules to his pyre. She delayed his birth, twisting fate, so Eurystheus, a lesser cousin, was born first, claiming Thebes' throne by Zeus' own decree. The firstborn shall rule. Hercules, minutes late, entered the world screaming, his tiny fists clenched, muscles already bulging like a wrestler's. Alcmene, sensing danger, hid him in a cedar cradle, whispering, "You're my lion, my spark." Amphitryon, returning blooded from battle, accepted the boy as his own, though Hera's spies owls and snakes watched from the shadows. Hera's wrath struck fast. At 8 months, as Thebes slept under a crescent moon, she sent to serpents jade-scaled, eyes like embers slithering into the twins' nursery. Hercules wailed, cowering in his crib, but Hercules, barely a toddler, grabbed the snakes with chubby hands, strangling them like reeds, their hisses fading as his laughter rang out. Alcmene, rushing in, gasped Amphitryon, sword drawn, froze. "Haze no mortal," the king whispered, awe and fear in his eyes. Tiresias, Thebes' blind seer, summoned by torchlight, read the omens in the snake's blood. This boy will slay monsters, but Hera's curse will dog him. Alcmene clutched Hercules, vowing to shield him, but the gods' dice were cast. By 10, Hercules was a giant among boys 6 feet, broad as an ox, his dark curls framing eyes that burned like coals. Amphitryon trained him in Thebes' dusty courts, wrestling, hurling javelins, driving chariots till wheels sparked. "You're born for war," he barked, teaching him to wield a club hewn from an olive tree, its knots polished by sweat. But Hercules' heart was wild. He hunted boars in Cithaeron's hills, their tusks no match for his fists. At 15, he saved Thebes from an Alcmenian raid, snapping a warrior's neck with one hand, his roar scattering the rest. He fights like Zeus, citizens cheered, piling laurels at his feet. Yet Hera's shadow grew whispers of madness, a curse brewing in a golden chalice. His youth wasn't all blood. Linus, a poet, taught in the lyre, its strings humming tales of Argonauts. But Hercules, impatient, smashed the instrument when corrected, killing Linus by accident, a first taste of his unchecked strength. Alcmene, weeping, sent him to herd cattle in the hills, hoping solitude would tame him. There, he met Megra, a Theban princess, her laughter soft as spring. They wed at 18, her lover bombed to his fire. Their sons 3 boys born in a palace, glowing with hope. But Hera's eyes never blinked. His strength will be his chains. She hissed from Olympus, plotting a madness to shatter his world. Thebes hailed him as their lion, but the gods saw a pawn. Hercules, unaware, grew stronger, his muscles a map of trials to come. Hera's curse waited, a storm ready to break. Next, madness strikes, as Hera's vengeance turns Hercules' strength into a tragic blade. Thebes buzzed like a hive, its limestone walls gleaming under a merciless sun in 1290 BCE. Hercules, the lion of Boeotia, strode through its gates, his olive wood club slung over a shoulder broad enough to carry mountains. At 20, he was a god among men, dark curls framing eyes like storm clouds, his hands still stained with boar's blood from Cithaeron's hunts. Megra, his wife, greeted him in their palace, her laughter soft as she cradled their 3 sons, their giggles filling halls hung with oxhide shields. "You're my home," Hercules murmured, kissing her, unaware that Hera, watching from Olympus, was mixing a poison of madness in a golden chalice. The goddess, scorned by Zeus' fling with Alcmene, had sworn to break his son, and her curse was about to shatter Thebes' hero. Hera's wrath was no idle threat. Since Hercules' birth, as we saw, shed schemed snakes in his crib, delaying his birth to rob him of Thebes' throne. Now, her eyes like burning embers, she wove a spell of madness, whispering to the Furies, turn his strength to ruin. One moonless night, as Hercules feasted with his family, the curse struck. His vision blurred, voices hissed in his skull, Hera's laughter, sharp as a blade. To him, Megra and their boys became monsters, their faces twisting into serpent-mawed fiends. "Demons!" he roared, eyes wild, seizing his club. In a frenzy, he struck Megra's scream cut short. His son's cries silenced as the palace floor ran red. Thebes froze in horror, guards dragged him, raving, to chains, his hands dripping with the blood of those he loved most. Dawn revealed the carnage. Hercules woke, shackled in a temple, his mind clearing like fog burned by sun. Alcmene, weeping, knelt beside him. "What have I done?" he gasped, seeing the bodies Megra, his boys, broken by his own hands. Apollodorus' library paints the scene stark. Hercules, the hero who crushed raiders, now a murderer, his strength cursed. Thebes' mourned priests chanted, to cleanse the miasma, the blood guilt staining the city. Hera's work, Tiresias, the blind seer, declared, reading entrails by torchlight, "Seek the oracle at Delphi for redemption." Hercules, hollowed by grief, staggered to his chariot, his club heavy as guilt, bound for Apollo's shrine to beg for salvation. Delphi's temple smoked with incense, its Pythia swaying over the sacred tripod. "You are polluted," she hissed, her voice a god's echo. "Serve Eurystheus, king of tyrants, for 12 years. Complete his labors 10. Then to more to cleanse your soul." Hercules, kneeling on marble, roared defiance. "I bow to no coward." But Apollo's will was I, and Hera's hand guided Eurystheus, the Weasley cousin who stole his throne. "Your strength is your chain," the Pythia warned, her eyes gleaming. Hercules, fists clenched, swore to obey, his heart a furnace of shame and rage. The 12 labors tasks to break a god were born, each a test to purge his sin or bury him. He trudged to Tyrants, a fortress of cyclopean stones, where Eurystheus cowered behind a bronze throne. "You'll serve me," the king sneered, Hera's puppet, his eyes darting like a rat's. The first labor was whispered. The Nemean Lion, a beast with a hide no blade could pierce, terrorizing Argos hills. Hercules, his lion-skin cloak won from a Cytheran hunt slung over his shoulders, gripped his bow and club. "I'll choke Hera's curse with my hands," he vowed, striding into the wilds. Thebes, still mourning, watched their broken hero go, their prayers trailing him like smoke. Alcmene, alone in her palace, clutched a lock of Megra's hair, whispering, "Come back, my son." Hercules' path was set monsters, gods, and madness awaited. Hera's laughter echoed from Olympus, but his strength, a spark of Zeus, burned brighter. Would it save him or destroy him? Next, the Nemean Lion roars, as Hercules faces his first labor, and a beast no mortal can kill. Dust swirled around Hercules' boots as he stalked through Nemeus' rugged hills, his olive wood club slung over a shoulder, carved like granite. It was 1290 BCE, and the son of Zeus, 21, was no longer Thebes' golden hero. Hera's curse had stained his hands with his family's blood. Megra, his 3 boys, sorted in a madness he couldn't outrun. Now, bound to Eurystheus' whim, by Delphi's oracle, he faced his first labor. The Nemean Lion, a monster spawned by Typhon and Echidna, its golden hide blade-proof, its claws sharper than bronze. Villages cowered, bones littered Nemeus caves. "I'll choke Hera's beast," Hercules growled, his eyes storm-dark, the lion-skin cloak from his Cytheran hunts flapping like a war banner. Eurystheus, that sniveling king in Tyrant's cyclopean fortress, had smirked when he gave the task. "Kill it, or it kills you," he taunted, safe behind his bronze throne. Hera's whispers in his ear. Hercules didn't flinch. He left Tyrants at dawn, his bow strung, quiver heavy with arrows, and a new bronze sword at his hip, forged by Theban smiths. Nemeus' hills were a maze of thorns and boulders, the air thick with the stench of carrion. Shepherds, faces gaunt, pointed to a cave high on a crag, its mouth black as Hades. "It eats men whole," they whispered, clutching talismans. Hercules nodded, his heart pounding not with fear, but with a hunger to prove himself. "Let it try," he said, striding up the slope, pebbles skittering under his tread. The lion's roar shook the valley, a sound like thunder splitting stone. It lunged from the cave, golden for gleaming, eyes like burning coals, jaws wide enough to crush an ox. Hercules drew his bow, arrows flying 6 shots, each bouncing off the beast's hide like straw. "God's damned beast," he roared, tossing the bow aside. His bronze sword slashed, sparking on the lion's flank, the blade bending like reeds. The lion swiped, claws raking Hercules' arm, blood spraying, but he laughed a wild, reckless sound. "You're mine," he bellowed, dropping the sword, charging bare-handed. Apollodorus' library tells it raw. Hercules wrestled the beast, his muscles bulging like cords, wrapping its neck in a chokehold no mortal could match. The cave became a slaughterhouse. The lion thrashed, claws shredding stone, tail lashing like a whip. Hercules, sweat slick, tightened his grip, thighs locked around its ribs, squeezing until bones cracked. Its roars turned to gurgles, the beast's eyes dimmed, its massive head slumping. Hercules held on, panting, till the heart stopped. Blood dripped from his torn arm. He stood, chest heaving, the lion limp at his feet. Using its own claws sharp as obsidian, he flayed the hide, draping it over his shoulders, the golden mane framing his face like a god's crown. Hera's first test falls, he muttered, dragging the carcass down the hill. Villagers cheering, their fear replaced by awe. Eurystheus paled when Hercules returned to tyrants, the lion's hide slung like a trophy, its jaws gaping. "No man does this," he stammered, retreating to a bronze pithos, a jar to hide his cowardice. "Skin it, wear it," Hercules said, tossing the hide at the king's feet, his grin sharp as a blade. The oracle's words echoed. This labor cleansed a fraction of his guilt, but Hera's curse lingered, her laughter a chill wind. Thebes, hearing of the feat, lit fires in his name, but Alcmene, his mother, wept alone, clutching Megra's veil. "One down, my son," she whispered, knowing 11 trials waited. Hercules sharpened his club, the lion's hide now his armor, its invincibility his shield. Nemea was quiet, but the next labor loomed, a beast with many heads, slithering in Lerna's marshes. Hera's eyes gleamed from Olympus. Zeus' lightning flickered, distant but proud. Could Hercules outfight fate itself? Next, the Hydra's jaws snap, as Hercules battles a monster that grows stronger with every strike. Lerna's marshes stank of death, a festering bog where reeds hissed and vipers slithered under a blood-red sky. Hercules, the lion of Thebes, marched in, his Nemean hide gleaming like gold, olive wood club heavy in his grip. At 21, he was a walking legend. His strangling of the Nemean Lion, as we saw, had silenced doubters in tyrants. But Hera, burning on Olympus, wasn't done. Eurystheus, her sniveling puppet, smirked from his bronze throne. Slay the Hydra, or rot in its jaws. The Lernaean Hydra, spawned by Typhon and Echidna, was no mere snake. 9 heads, venom-dripping fangs, one immortal skull. Its lair a cave by a spring sacred to Hera herself. "I'll burn her beast to ash," Hercules vowed, his eyes like storm coals, striding into the swamp. He wasn't alone. Iolaus, his nephew son of Iphicles, his mortal half-brother, drove the chariot, a wiry 18-year-old with a torch and a spear. "You'll need me," Iolaus insisted, his grin bold despite the bog's stench. Hercules grunted, trusting the lad's fire. The marsh swallowed sound, flies buzzed like curses, bones crunching underfoot, victims of the Hydra's hunger. At the Amymone spring, the cave loomed, its mouth a black maw spewing poison mist. Hercules knocked his bow, arrows tipped with lion's blood, and roared a challenge. "Come, serpent." The Hydra answered, 9 heads rearing, scales glinting like oil, each hiss a death knell. Apollodorus' library paints it grim, one head immortal, the rest regrowing double when cut. Hercules struck first, arrows flying, 6 shafts buried in scaly necks, useless as straw. The Hydra lunged, a head snapping at his throat. He swung his club, smashing one skull to pulp, brains spattering reeds. 2 more heads sprouted, fangs gleaming. "God's damned beast," he roared, slashing with his bronze sword. Another head fell, for grew back, venom spraying his arm, burning like fire. Iolaus, eyes wide, shouted, "Fire, uncle." He lit his torch, thrusting it into the marsh's dry reeds, flames leaping. Hercules grinned, hacking ahead and yelling, "Burn it." Iolaus seared the stump, cauterizing the wound. Black smoke rose. No heads regrew. They worked in sync. Hercules' club crushed, Iolaus' torch burned, 7 heads down, the marsh a blaze of screams and ash. The immortal head, gold-scaled and unyielding, hissed defiance. Hercules, sweat slick, tackled it, wrestling the neck to the ground, his muscles bulging like Zeus bolts. "Die!" he bellowed, pinning it under a boulder the size of a chariot. Its hisses muffled forever. Venom oozed from the corpse. Hercules, cunning, dipped his arrows in the gore, each tip now a death dealer. The cave reeked of charred flesh as he dragged the carcass out. Iolaus panting beside him. Villagers, hiding in nearby hills, cheered, their fear drowned by it all. "The marsh is free," they cried, piling olive reeds at his feet. Tyrant's palace was no celebration. Eurystheus, cowering in his Pythos jar, spat. "You cheated, Iolaus helped." Hera's voice echoed in his sneer, refusing the labor's credit. Hercules, blooded but unbowed, laughed. "Count it or not, I'm coming for the next." The Nemean hide on his shoulders gleamed, now paired with venom-tipped arrows, a quiver of death. Thebes, hearing the tale, lit fires. Alcmene, his mother, clutched Megra's veil, whispering, "To down, my lion." But Hera's eyes burned from above, her next task brewing a golden hind sacred to Artemis, swift as wind, untouchable. Hercules sharpened his club, the Hydra's venom his new edge, but the gods' dice rolled on. The marsh was quiet, but the hunt was far from over. Could Hercules outrun Hera's endless spite? Next, a sacred stag and a monstrous boar test Hercules' speed and strength in a double labor. Arcadia's forests whispered with danger, their pines casting long shadows over glades where no mortal dared tread. Hercules, the lion of Thebes, strode in at 22, his Nemean hide gleaming like a second skin, olive wood club scarred from Hydra's jaws. Fresh from Lerna's marshes, where he and Iolaus burned the serpent beast to ash, he faced Eurystheus' next decree. Capture the Ceryneian hind, a deer with golden antlers and hooves of bronze, sacred to Artemis, swift as a storm wind. Then, tackle the Erymanthian boar, a monster tearing through Sophis fields, its tusks goring men like spears. Take them alive, Eurystheus sneered from Tyrant's throne, Hera's malice in his eyes. "I'll outrun a goddess pet," Hercules growled, gripping his bow, its hydra venom arrows rattling. The Ceryneian hind was no prey, it was a phantom. Apollodorus' library calls it a marvel. Antlers glowing like molten gold, darting through Arcadia's hills faster than an arrow. Hercules tracked it for a year, his boots pounding rivers and ridges, from Cerynea to the Ladon's banks. Arrows were useless. Artemis' wrath would curse a killer. He hunted by moonlight, eyes locked on golden glints, his breath steady as a hunter's. At Eno's glade, he sprang a trap nets of hemp, weighted with stones. The hind, caught mid-leap, thrashed, its bronze hooves sparking. Hercules wrestled it down, gentle but iron firm, tying its legs with rawhide. "You're mine, sacred or not," he whispered, slinging it over his shoulders. Artemis appeared, her bow drawn, eyes like frost. "You dare," she hissed. Hercules knelt, voice steady. "I serve the oracle, not my will." She relented, her stag unharmed, but warned, "Tread lightly, Demigod." He trudged to Tyrants, the hind bleating, villagers gaping at its golden crown. Eurystheus, cowering in his Pythos, scarfed. A deer, now face a real beast. The Erymanthian boar was terror incarnate, taller than a man, tusks like sires, its squeals shaking Sophis hills. Hercules trekked north, his club ready, but paused on Erymanthus' slopes to feast with Pholus, a centaur friend of Chiron. Wine flowed. Centaurs, drunk and wild, attacked, drawn by the scent. Hercules fought them off, his arrows dipped in Hydra venom, felling 6, their hoofs thundering as they fled. Pholus, inspecting a poisoned shaft, pricked his hand and died, his blood pooling. "Gods curse my strength," Hercules muttered, guilt heavy as he buried the centaur. The boar's roar snapped him back, echoing from a snowy ravine. The hunt was brutal. The boar charged, eyes red, tusks ripping earth like a plow. Hercules dodged, its breath hot on his neck, and loosed arrows. Venom slowed it, but the beast's hide was thick as oak. Snow fell, blinding. He drove it into a drift, using nets from the hind's hunt to snare its legs. It thrashed, squealing, as he leapt, wrestling its massive head, fists pounding until it stilled. alive, as ordered, he grunted, binding it with chains, dragging it down the mountain, its bulk scarring the frost. Sophists cheered, farmers piling grain at his feet. But the boar's weight crushed Eurystheus' courage. He hid deeper in his jar, screaming, "Take it away." Hercules laughed, releasing the beast to the wilds, its roars fading. Tyrants buzzed with his feats, but Hera's laughter rang from Olympus. "To moor down," Hercules said, flexing scarred hands. The Nemean hide blood-flecked. Alcmene, in Thebes, lit a torch for her son, whispering, "Survive, my lion." Eurystheus, trembling, plotted the next labor, a task of filth, not blood, to humble the demigod. Hercules polished his club, the Hydra's venom his edge, but Artemis' warning lingered. The gods watched, and their patience thinned. The hind was caught, the boar bound, but Hera's next trial would test more than muscle. Next, Hercules faces a river of dung, as the Augean stables demand a hero's cunning. Elis baked under a roofless sun, its fields green, but its air foul with the reek of King Augea's stables. Hercules, the lion of Thebes, strode in at 22, his Nemean hide glinting gold, olive wood club slung low, Hydra venom arrows rattling in his quiver. Fresh from wrestling the Erymanthian boar, as we saw, head-tamed beasts no mortal could face, but Eurystheus, Hera's sneering puppet in Tyrants, had a new labor to mock him. Clean Augea's stables in one day. The king cackled, safe in his bronze-walled palace. No blood, just filth. 30 years of dung from 3,000 cattle had turned the stalls into a swamp of rot, a plague-breeding mire sacred to Hera. "It'll wash her in salt away," Hercules growled, his eyes like flint, boots crunching toward Elis' cursed pens. Augeas, a king fat with wealth, met Hercules at the stable gates, his nose wrinkled against the stench. "Clean this in a day." "Impossible," he scarfed, his herds lowing in pens deep with muck, flies swarming like a black storm. Hercules, unfazed, struck a deal. "I'll do it for 1/10 of your cattle." Augeas, grinning at a fool's wager, agreed, unaware of the demigod's cunning. Apollodorus' library tells it sharp. Hercules didn't lift a shovel. He scouted the land, spotting to rivers Alpheus and Peneus rushing near the stables, their waters clear as crystal. "The gods gave me brains, not just brawn," he muttered, grabbing a bronze spade from a stunned shepherd. He worked like a titan. At dawn, Hercules dug trenches, sweat pouring, his muscles rippling as he carved channels through earth and stone. By noon, had linked the rivers to the stables, their currents roaring like Zeus' thunder. With a shout, he breached the stable walls. Water surged, a raging flood that swept dung, straw, and decay in a brown tide. Cattle bellowed, scrambling to higher ground. Augeas escaped as his pens gleamed, scrubbed clean by sunset. The river's flow redirected back to their beds. "Done," Hercules roared, planting his club in the mud, the air fresh for the first time in decades. Villagers, coughing through the fading stench, cheered, piling olive branches at his feet. "He's a god," they cried, but Hera's laughter echoed from Olympus. Augeas, red-faced, reneged on the deal. "No cattle, you used rivers, not muscle." He spat, egged by his son Phyleus, who mocked Hercules as a cheat. Hercules' fist clenched, only Phyleus' plea for peace stayed his club. "Keep your herd, coward," he snarled, striding back to Tyrants. The Nemean hide steaming in the heat. Eurystheus, cowering in his Pythos jar, refused the labor's credit, screeching, "You were paid." Hera's rules, twisted to deny him. Hercules laughed, bitter but unbroken. "5 down, you snake," he said, wiping mud from his arms, the Hydra's venom in his quiver a reminder of battles won. Thebes, hearing of the cleansed stables, lit torches. Alcmene, his mother, prayed over Megra's veil, whispering, "Hold fast, my lion." Hera's next tasks loomed, creatures of wing and hoof, not filth. Eurystheus, trembling, muttered of birds that devoured men and a bull that shook Crete. Hercules polished his club, the river's roar still in his ears, but the god's eyes burned hotter. Artemis' warning from the hind's hunt lingered. "Tread lightly, demigod." Had he pushed too far? The stables gleamed, but Hera's curse was a chain no river could wash away. Next, monstrous birds and a raging bull test Hercules' aim and courage in a labor of sky and sea. The marshes of Stymphalia reeked of decay, the dark waters alive with the shrieks of metal-winged horrors. Hercules, the Lion of Thebes, marched in at 23, his Nemean hide glinting under a storm-grey sky, olive wood club heavy, Hydra venom arrows rattling in his quiver, fresh from washing the Augean stables. As we saw, head outsmarted Hera's filth, but Eurystheus, cowering in Tyrant's fortress, spat a new challenge: drive out the Stymphalian birds, or let them peck your bones. These weren't sparrows spawned by Ares, their bronze beaks pierced shields, their feathers flew like daggers, and their droppings poisoned crops. I'll silence their screams, Hercules growled, his eyes like thunderbolts, striding into the swamp's jaws. Stymphalia's lake was a graveyard, bones of shepherds jutted from mud, air thick with the buzz of killer flocks. Hercules climbed a ridge, spotting thousands of birds, their wings clanging like swords. His bow, strung tight, loosed venom-tipped arrows, dozens fell, black blood spraying, but the swarm barely thinned. Hera's pets don't die easy, he muttered, ducking a feather that sliced his cloak like a blade. Athena, ever his ally, appeared in a shimmer, tossing him a bronze rattle forged by Hephaestus. Shake it, hero, she whispered. Hercules grinned, climbing a cypress, and shook the crotolot's clang echoed like a war horn, panicking the birds. They rose in a shrieking cloud, wings blotting the sun. His arrows flew, each shot dropping scores, venom burning through bronze feathers. Survivors fled to the Black Sea, their cries fading. Villagers, trembling in caves, cheered, piling reeds at his feet. The skies clear, they roared, but Hera's scowl burned from Olympus. Eurystheus, hiding in his pithos, sneered. No rest, slave fetched the Cretan bull. Hercules sailed to Crete, its azure waves hiding a monster's rage. King Minos, ruler of Knossos, met him on the shore, his palace of frescoed balls gleaming. That beast's Poseidon's curse, Minos spat, pointing to fields torn by hooves. The Cretan bull, white as marble, was no mere catalit's horns-gored warriors. Its breath scorched earth, a divine terror loosed far Minos' broken vows. Hercules, club raised, tracked it to a plain near Gortyn, its hooves thundering like an earthquake. Come, ox, he bellowed, dodging a charge that splintered an olive tree. Arrows were useless, the bull's hide deflected venom. Hercules leapt, bare-handed, seizing its haunches, muscles bulged, veins like rivers, as he wrestled it to the ground, knees pinning its ribs. It bellowed, thrashing. He bound its legs with ship's rope, dragging it to his boat. You're mine, he growled, rowing it to Tyrants, the bull's eyes wild with fury. Eurystheus, trembling at the beast's snorts, hid deeper in his jar. Sacrifice it to Hera, he squeaked, but Hercules freed it to the wilds, spitting, let her choke on it. Minos, grateful, sent gold to Thebes. Villagers danced, their fields safe. 6 labors down, Hercules stood taller, his Nemean hide scarred, his quiver lighter. Alcmene, in Thebes, lit a torch for her son, whispering, halfway, my lion, over Megra's veil. But Hera's laughter rang colder. Her next tasks would draw blood, not just sweat. Eurystheus, egged by her venom, muttered of man-eating mares and a warrior queen's belt. Hercules sharpened his arrows, the bull's roar still in his ears, but Athena's rattle was a warning. The god's patience frayed. The skies cleared, the bull tamed, but Hera's next trial would test more than strength. Next, savage mares and a warrior queen's belt push Hercules into battles of fire and steel. The sun sank into the western sea, casting fire over Erythaia's distant isle, where waves crashed like war drums. Hercules, the Lion of Thebes, sailed at 24, his Nemean hide battered, olive wood club scar from Amazon blood, fresh from stealing Hippolyta's belt. As we saw, had left a trail of death, his heart heavy with her fall. Eurystheus, Hera's puppet in Tyrants, sneered his next labor: steal Gerion's cattle, or die on his red shores. Geryon, a three-bodied giant triple torsos, 6 arms, 1 monstrous will-guarded crimson oxen on Erythea. Beyond the pillars of Hercules, he'll tear his herd from his hands. Hercules growled, his Hydra venom arrows rattling, boarding a ship with Iolaus, the horizon swallowing their sails. Erythea's cliffs loomed, red as blood under a molten sky. Hercules beached alone, his boots sinking in scarlet sand. Gerion's hound, all thrustu-headed, serpent-tailed charged, jaws snapping. Hercules swung his club, cracking both skulls in one blow, brains splattering rock. Gerion roared, his 3 spears gleaming, each arm swinging like a titan. Zeus bastard, he bellowed, charging. Hercules dodged. Arrows flying venom pierced one chest, then another, blood gushing black. He tackled the giant, wrestling all 6 arms, his strength crushing ribs until Gerion's 3 hearts stilled. The crimson oxen, massive and lowing, fell under his ropes. He drove them to his ship, their hooves shaking the earth. Locals, cowering in caves, whispered, "Haze a god," as he sailed back, leaving Gerion's corpse to the gulls. Eurystheus, trembling in his pathos, spat the next task: fetch the Hesperides apples. These golden fruits, guarded by nymphs, and a dragon in a garden at the world's edge, were Hera's own treasure. Hercules trekked west, crossing deserts and seas, his Nemean hide steaming. At Oceanus River, he met Atlas, the Titan holding the sky, his shoulders bowed under eternity. "Help me, Titan," Hercules said. "I'll hold your burden for the apples." Atlas, eyes like storms, agreed, leading him to the Hesperides grove, where laden, 100-headed dragon, coiled around a golden tree. Hercules, cunning sharp, offered Atlas a deal. "Take the sky back after you pluck the fruit." Atlas nodded, dropping the heavens onto Hercules' shoulders, the weight crushed, stars spinning in his vision. But he held firm. Atlas snatched 3 apples, their gold glowing like suns, Ladon's heads hissing, but bound by Hera's command. "Keep them," Atlas grinned, eyeing freedom. Hercules, sweat pouring, played sly. "Sure, but adjust my cloak first." Atlas, fooled, took the sky back. Hercules grabbed the apples and bolted, his laughter echoing. The Hesperides wailed. Ladon's roar shook the grove, but Hercules was gone, apples tucked in his hide. Tyrants saw him return, tossing the fruit to Eurystheus' feet. 9 down, he snarled, the king shrinking in his jar. Hera's rage a cold wind. Thebes lit fires. Alcmene, clutching Megra's veil, whispered, "Almost there, my lion." But Hera's final labor loomed, a beast from the underworld itself. The apples gleamed, the cattle lowed, but Hercules' fire burned hotter. Could he face death's own jaws? Next, Hercules descends to Hades, battling Cerberus in a labor that defies the grave. The Tannerum cave gaped like a wound in Laconia's cliffs, its black mouth swallowing light and hope. Hercules, the lion of Thebes, stood at its edge at 25, his Nemean hide scarred from Gerion's spears, his olive wood club heavy with kills, fresh from stealing the Hesperides' golden apples. As we saw, had outwitted titans and gods, but Eurystheus, Hera's puppet in Tyrants, spat his final labor. "Bring me Cerberus, Hades' hound, or rot in his jaws." Cerberus was no beast, 3 heads with serpent manes, claws like scythes, a tail that lashed like a viper, guarding the underworld's gates to keep the dead in and the living out. "I'll drag death to the sun," Hercules growled, his Hydra venom arrows useless here. Striding into the dark, with only his club and Nemean hide. The descent was a nightmare. Tannerum's tunnels dripped with frost, echoes of moans filling the air. Shades of the dead, their eyes hollow. Hercules, torchless, trusted his demigod sight, the path twisting past rivers of fire and gloom. At the Styx, Charon, the skeletal ferryman, sneered, "No living man crosses." Hercules stared him down, fists clenched. Charon, trembling, rowed him across, the black water hissing. On the far bank, ghosts swarmed. Megra and his sons, the shades weeping, clawing at his heart. "Forgive me," he whispered, pushing past, guilt heavier than his club. Hades' palace loomed, obsidian and cold. Persephone, pale as moonlight, watched from her throne. But Hades, lord of the dead, met him at the gate. "Take my hound, but shed no blood," he warned, voice like gravel. Hera watches. Cerberus lunged from the shadows, 3 jaws roaring, serpent manes hissing venom. Its eyes burned red, claws raking stone. Hercules dodged, the Nemean hide deflecting a tail strike that cracked the floor. Arrows were forbidden, swords useless. He dropped his club, diving bare-handed. "Come, dog," he roared, grappling the beast, his arms locking around to necks, muscles bulging like Zeus bolts. Cerberus thrashed, third head snapping at his throat. Hercules slammed it to the ground, knees pinning its ribs, choking all 3 heads until its roars faded to whimpers. Chains from his ship bound its paws. He slung the beast over his shoulders, its weight like a mountain, and climbed back to the sun, shades wailing behind him. Apollodorus library paints it raw. Hercules emerged at dawn, Cerberus growling, the Tannerum cave steaming with his sweat. Tyrants quaked as Hercules stormed in, Cerberus head snarling, villagers fleeing in terror. Eurystheus, cowering in his Pythos jar, shrieked, "Take it back." Hercules laughed, a sound like thunder, tossing the hound's chains at the king's feet. 10 down, he snarled, dragging Cerberus back to Hades, the beast vanishing into the dark. Thebes lit fires. Alcmene, clutching Megra's veil, wept, "My lion lives." But Hera's curse wasn't done. To more labors, added for cheating with Iolaus. An orgious deal loomed. Eurystheus, trembling, muttered of tasks undone. Hera's malice a cold blade. Hercules polished his club, Cerberus growls echoing in his ears. But Hades' warning rang, "You've walked my halls, demigod death knows your name." The underworld was conquered, but Hera's final traps waited, and Hercules' fire burned on a fraying thread. Next, madness and betrayal break Hercules, as his final battles lead to a pyre and the gods' redemption. Chapter 11. The broken hero. Hercules' fall and redemption. Tyrant's cyclopean walls cast long shadows as Hercules, now 26, trudged back from Hades' gates, his Nemean hide battered, his olive wood club heavy with Cerberus blood. The 10 labor slaying the Nemean Lion, Hydra, capturing the Ceryneian hind, Erymanthian boar, cleansing the Augean stables, driving off Stymphalian birds, taming Diomedes' mares, stealing Hippolytus' belt, herding Orion's cattle, and dragging Cerberus from the underworld were done, as we saw. But Eurystheus, Hera's puppet, had added to 4 cheating with Iolaus and orgious deal. Those were settled, his guilt cleansed, yet Hercules' heart was a cracked shield. Hera's curse lingered, her laughter a blade twisting in his soul. "I'm free," he whispered, but Thebes' cheers felt hollow, Megra's ghost haunting his dreams. He sought peace in Oechalia, a kingdom of vineyards and stone. King Eurytus, famed for archery, welcomed him, his daughter Aeolia vision golden hair, eyes like dawn. "Join my court," Eurytus offered, but Hera, watching from Olympus, wove madness again. At a feast, as wine flowed, Hercules' vision blurred, voices hissed, faces twisted into Megra's killers. "Traitors," he roared, seizing his club, smashing Eurytus' sons for princes, skulls crushed like clay. Iol's screams pierced the haze. He fled, blood-soaked, to Trachis, his mind a storm. Hera's poison, he cursed, collapsing in a temple, priests chaining him as Alcmene wept in Thebes. "My lion breaks," she sobbed, clutching Megra's veil. Exile followed. Trachis' king, Cex, gave sanctuary, but Hercules, haunted, sought purification. He wed Deianira, a warrior princess, her strength a match for his heart. "You're my anchor," he told her, their son Hylas born in a fragile peace. But Hera's spite never slept. Years later, battling Nessus, a centaur who tried to abduct Deianira, Hercules slew him with a Hydra venom arrow. Nessus, dying, tricked Deianira, offering his blood-soaked tunic. "It'll bind his love forever." She kept it, unsuspecting. When rumors of Hercules' longing for Aeole reached her, Deianira, desperate, sent the tunic. "Wear it for me," she pleaded. Hercules donned it at a sacrifice on Mount Ota, 1280 BCE. The venom burned, his flesh melted, screams shaking the pines. Hera's final strike. He roared, realizing the trap. No mortal could save him. The pain was fire. His Nemean hide useless. I won't die a coward, he swore, building a pyre atop Ota, cedar and oak piled high. Philoctetes, his friend, lit the flames, tears falling as Hercules climbed in, his club at his side. Take my bow, he gasped, gifting it to Philoctetes. Flames roared, his flesh charring, but Zeus' lightning cracked Hercules' mortal half burned away, his divine soul rising. Apollodorus' library says it clear. Athena carried him to Olympus in a chariot of light, his scars gone, a god at last. Hera, grudging, bowed to Zeus. Hercules wed Hebe, goddess of youth, his trials done. Thebes mourned, then celebrated, fires lit, hymn sung. Alcmene, old and frail, smiled, my lion's free, his pyre's ashes scattered, but his name burned brighter. The gods embraced him, mortals carved his deeds in stone. One labor remained to live forever in myth. Next, the conclusion, where Hercules' fire lights eternity, his legacy a riddle of strength and sacrifice. The winds of Mount Ota still carry the echo of Hercules' pyre, where flames burned away his mortal half, leaving a god in 1280 BCE. From Thebes' whitewashed palaces to Hades' black gates, Hercules, son of Zeus, cursed by Hera, was no mere man. His 12 labors, born from the blood of Megra, and his sons, tested strength no mortal could match. He choked lions, burned hydras, tamed bulls, and stole apples from the world's edge. His final trial, a venom-soaked tunic, ended in fire, but Zeus' lightning lifted him to Olympus, wed to Hebe, his name eternal. This conclusion unravels the demigod's riddle. Hero, monster, or myth, and asks, what does Hercules' fire teach us today? His saga, sung by Hesiod and Apollodorus around 700 BCE, is raw power. The library lists his feats, slaying the Nemean Lion, wrestling Cerberus, outwitting Atlas. Each labor was Hera's trap to break him, yet his club and cunning turned her spite to glory. Born in Thebes, raised in Tyrants, he was a Mycenaean titan, 6 feet of muscle. His olive-wood club a terror. Was he real? Mycenae's lion gate, Tyrant's cyclopean walls, and vases from 600 BCE showing a club-wielding hero hint at a warlord whose deeds grew mythic. Schliemann's digs at Mycenae found bronze swords, perhaps swung by a man like him, but it's his heart fraud, fierce, that grips us. He loved Megra, mourned his sons, and fell to madness, a mirror of our own battles with rage and guilt. Hercules' legacy is ablaze across time. Greeks worshipped him at altars in Argos. Sailors poured wine at Sunion, calling him Alexikokos, averter of evil. His 12 labors shaped rituals, kings proving might through trials. Sophocles' Trachines staged his pain. Romans named him Hercules, their champion, his image on coins. Renaissance art painted him wrestling lions. Disney's 1997 film, grossing $252 million, made him a cartoon star, his muscles flexing for kids. Modern tales, Rick Riordan's Percy Jackson recast him as a mentor, flawed but mighty. His story fuels our dreams, strength to crush monsters, will to defy fate, love that burns through loss. Yet his flaws, rage that killed kin, pride that sparked Hera's trap, sworn of power unchecked. Haze us. His labors are our struggles, impossible tasks, inner demons, the fight for redemption. His Nemean hide is our armor, his pyre, our reckoning. From Mycenae's ruins to Hollywood's screens, Hercules is the hero we chase, unbreakable, yet broken. His strength a spark for revolutions, like Napoleon's meritocracy, all our own battles for greatness. But his cost families lost, cities scarred reminds us, glory burns. What's he to you? A titan who conquered death, or a tragic soul chained by gods? Drop your take in the comments, smash that like, and subscribe for more epics. Achilles, Theseus, or another legend. You decide. Hercules' fire never fades, his club swinging through eternity.